It all began with a seemingly harmless visit from my nephew, but soon his touch awakened feelings I never anticipated. At 64, I thought passion was behind me until Logan changed that belief. What started as familial comfort turned into a risky waltz of desire, leaving me torn between the principles I had lived by and a love I never expected. It was a warm summer evening when Logan, my 22-year-old nephew, came to visit. He was full of energy, his laughter infectious, turning even mundane moments into something lively. I was 64, and although I had settled into a comfortable life, the monotony of my routine often left me longing for something more. While preparing a simple meal of pasta and garlic bread, I couldn't help but feel a slight thrill as I awaited his arrival. Logan had always been more like a son to me than a nephew, and our bond had only grown stronger over the years. When he finally arrived, his familiar, warm smile filled me with joy. We spent the evening recalling family gatherings, sharing stories that made us both laugh. There was a lightness in the air, an unspoken sense that this evening would be different from our usual interactions. After dinner, we moved to the living room and settled on the couch, close, though still separated by an invisible line we dared not cross. As the sun set, casting a gentle glow through the windows, I noticed Logan stealing glances at me, his eyes lingering longer than usual. I felt a flutter in my stomach, an emotion I hadn't felt in years. Could it be that he saw me in a new way? I quickly dismissed the thought, telling myself it was just my imagination. Yet I couldn't ignore the way my heart raced whenever he smiled. As we continued sharing stories, the space between us seemed to shrink with each laugh. I became acutely aware of his presence beside me, the brush of his shoulder against mine. It felt as though time had stopped, and the world outside had faded away. As the evening progressed, our conversation deepened, moving from playful banter to more serious topics, our dreams, fears, and the paths we had chosen in life. I felt a connection with Logan that went beyond family, both exciting and frightening me. Logan leaned in closer, and I caught the faint scent of his cologne, a blend of cedar and spice. My heart raced as he spoke softly, his voice low and enticing. "Aunt Sarah, you've always been my inspiration. You have such a beautiful spirit, and I admire you more than you know." His words ignited something deep within me. I was flattered, but also confused. Was I truly the object of his admiration? Our eyes met, and for a moment we were lost in each other's gaze. The air was thick with tension, an energy crackling between us. I felt a desire stir inside me, something I hadn't acknowledged in years. My heart was like a bird fluttering in a cage, yearning to be free. But I was bound by the weight of our familial relationship, torn between my feelings and the expectations of society. "Logan, we shouldn't," I began, but he gently interrupted, his hand brushing against mine. "Why not? Just because we're family doesn't mean we can't feel something more," right? His eyes were earnest, filled with a longing that mirrored my own. The way his fingers lingered on my hand sent a jolt through me, reigniting a fire I thought had long burned out. The evening unfolded slowly, like a dance, each moment pulling us closer. His hands found their way to my shoulders, his touch tender yet electrifying, matching the wild rhythm of my uncertainty. The warmth of his body enveloped me, and I was powerless to resist the magnetic force between us. "Sarah," he whispered, his breath warm against my ear, "I've always felt a special connection with you, something I can't explain. It's like we're meant to be more than just aunt and nephew." His words lingered in the air, heavy with meaning. I felt my cheeks flush as the realization of the line we were about to cross weighed heavily on me. "Logan, this isn't right," I protested weakly, though deep inside, I was tempted to give in to this forbidden desire. I knew I shouldn't, but the fire in his eyes sparked a longing I couldn't ignore. My heart begged me to let go, to release the constraints that had held me for so long. But just as I was on the verge of surrender, doubt crept in, causing me to question everything. I hesitated, and in that pause, Logan pulled back slightly, searching my face for an answer. I saw a flicker of vulnerability in his expression, and it struck a chord deep within me. "I don't want to pressure you," he said softly, his hand retreating, leaving a cold emptiness in its wake. "But I can't help how I feel. I just needed you to know." The tension in the room intensified, the air charged with unspoken emotions. I realized I was standing at a crossroads. On one side was the safe, comfortable life I had built, grounded in family and societal expectations on the other, was the enticing allure of exploring a connection I never anticipated. My heart tugged toward Logan, urging me to leap into the unknown, but fear held me back. As night fell, silence settled over us, heavy with unspoken possibilities. I could feel Logan's eyes on me, waiting. I wanted to reach out, to let him know I felt it too, that this was more than just a fleeting attraction. But the weight of our relationship, the fear of judgment, and the uncertainty of what lay ahead kept me rooted in place. Finally, I found the courage to speak. "Logan, I care about you deeply, more than you realize. But I'm scared of what this might mean for us." My voice trembled, revealing the vulnerability I had long kept hidden. He listened closely, his expression softening as he absorbed my words. "I understand," he replied gently, his hand returning to mine, this time holding it firmly. "But what if we just let ourselves explore this? What if we see where it takes us?" His sincerity was disarming, and I felt my resolve weakening. The pull of the unknown was intoxicating, whispering promises of passion and connection that I had suppressed for so long. The air between us was thick with anticipation, every second stretching into eternity as we navigated the fragile balance of our feelings. For the first time, I truly saw Logan not just as my nephew, but as the man he had grown into, with a depth and warmth I hadn't fully appreciated. A wave of affection surged through me, and my heart soared with the realization that perhaps this was the start of something truly beautiful. Taking a deep breath, I moved closer, my heart pounding as I bridged the space between us. Our lips met in a soft, tentative kiss that sent electric shivers through my body, a kiss full of yearning and uncertainty, a silent promise of what could be. Warmth spread through me, dissolving the barriers I had built around my heart. As our kiss deepened, Logan's hands moved with such gentle care that it took my breath away. He cupped my face, his fingers brushing my skin, sparking a fire within me that I thought had long been extinguished. I felt alive, awakened to a realm of possibilities I had never dared to explore. Every touch, every caress was an affirmation of the connection we shared, a bond that went beyond our family ties. The evening unfolded in a whirlwind of emotions, with our kisses becoming more passionate, more urgent. I found myself giving in to the moment, surrendering to the undeniable chemistry between us. We explored each other's bodies, our fingers tracing paths of desire along our arms and shoulders. It was intoxicating, a dance of intimacy that left me breathless, craving more. In those moments, I lost myself in Logan, in the warmth of his embrace and the softness of his lips. It felt as if we had created a world of our own, where nothing else mattered, no judgment, no expectations, just the two of us and the connection we were building. Time seemed to slip away as I felt a profound sense of freedom, allowing myself to be vulnerable and embrace the love that had blossomed between us. As the night wore on, we nestled against each other, our breaths mingling in the quiet of the room. I felt an overwhelming sense of peace, the kind I had longed for, but never thought possible. In Logan's arms, I found comfort and warmth, a sense of belonging I had been craving for so long. We whispered softly, sharing dreams and hopes as we intertwined our fingers, solidifying the bond we had discovered. In that intimate moment, I knew we had crossed a threshold, one that would forever change our relationship. But instead of fear, I felt hope for a future filled with love and discovery, a journey I was ready to embark on with Logan by my side. As I closed my eyes, surrendering to the warmth of his presence, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Perhaps this wasn't just a fleeting moment, but the beginning of a beautiful love story, one that would unfold in ways we had yet to imagine. As I drifted into peaceful sleep, I realized Logan's hands had indeed ventured where I never expected, yet instead of feeling guilt or hesitation, I felt a deep sense of belonging. Logan's once innocent hands now carried a tenderness that awakened something deep within me. I never thought I would feel this way, but here I was, wrapped in the warmth of a man who understood me in ways no one else ever had. His touch was no longer simply comforting, it was electrifying, filling the empty spaces inside me with a need I hadn't known existed. We lay there together, the soft glow of moonlight filtering through the curtains, casting gentle shadows across the room. The silence between us wasn't awkward, it buzzed with anticipation, a quiet hum of energy beneath the surface. I felt his breath on my neck, each exhale sending shivers down my spine. The sensation was intoxicating, and I found myself wanting more. Without thinking, I reached for his hand, guiding it slowly down my body, encouraging his fingers to explore the places that had long been neglected. His touch was light and teasing, every brush of his skin against mine sending waves of pleasure rippling through me. My body responded eagerly, arching into his touch, as if it had been waiting for this moment, this connection, for far too long. Logan's lips found my neck, his kisses soft and deliberate, each one stoking the fire that burned hotter with every passing second. I could feel the tension between us building, the space we had once maintained for propriety's sake now shrinking until it felt as though we were two souls entwined in a dance of desire. His hands moved more confidently now, tracing the curves of my body, learning every inch of me as though he were committing it to memory. I moaned softly, unable to stop the sound from escaping, a sound of release, of finally letting go of the years of restraint and yielding to the desires I had long kept buried. I turned my head slightly, meeting his gaze. His eyes were dark with passion, filled with a hunger that reflected my own. In that moment we both knew there was no turning back. His lips met mine again, this time with more urgency. The kiss was fierce and passionate, a mirror of the emotions that had been simmering all evening. My fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer as I deepened the kiss, our tongues exploring each other's mouths with a newfound intensity. Every kiss, every touch felt like a promise of what was to come, a prelude to the passion slowly consuming us. Logan's hand slid under my blouse, his fingers grazing the bare skin of my waist. The sensation was electric, sending jolts of pleasure through me as my skin tingled beneath his touch. Every nerve in my body tingled with anticipation as he hesitated, his fingers pausing at the hem of my blouse, silently asking for my permission to proceed. I gave a breathless nod, my heart pounding as he gently lifted the fabric, revealing more of my skin to his touch. His hands moved tenderly, almost reverently, exploring the soft curves of my body. He took his time, savoring every moment, every inch of skin he uncovered. It felt like he was unwrapping a gift, and with each touch, he unraveled the layers of my inhibition, leaving me exposed and vulnerable before him. I could feel my body responding in ways I hadn't experienced in years, my breathing quickening, my pulse racing as his hands roamed freely over me, caressing and teasing, bringing me to the brink of pleasure with each stroke. His lips followed the trail of his hands, kissing down my neck, across my collarbone, and lower, until I thought I might burst from the sheer intensity of it all. The room seemed to shrink around us, the outside world fading into nothingness as we lost ourselves in each other. Time no longer had meaning, there was only the present, the feel of his skin on mine, the sound of our ragged breaths mingling in the quiet night. I felt consumed by him, as if every part of me was connected to him, as though we were two halves of a whole finally reunited after years apart. Logan pulled back slightly, his eyes searching mine as he gently laid me onto my back, his hands never leaving my skin, caressing me like I was the most precious thing in the world. I felt the weight of his body pressing against mine, making my heart race even faster. His lips found mine again, the kiss slow and sensual, filled with a promise that sent shivers down my spine. We moved together, our bodies finding a rhythm as natural as breathing. His hands gripped my hips, holding me close as he explored me with a tenderness that made my heart ache with longing. I felt the heat of his skin, the strength of his body surrounding me, making me feel small and protected in his arms. Each touch, each kiss, every movement felt like an unspoken declaration of love, as though we were communicating through our bodies, saying things we had never dared speak aloud. My fingers trailed down his back, feeling the muscles tense and release beneath my touch. I marveled at how perfectly we fit together, as if we had been made for each other. The tension between us kept building, the pleasure growing with every second, every touch bringing us closer to something breathtaking and profound. I felt Logan's breath quicken against my neck, his body trembling slightly as the intensity of our connection deepened. The way he touched me, the way he gazed at me, made me feel cherished in a way I hadn't felt in years. It was as though he saw not just my body, but my soul, and the power of that realization was so overwhelming that tears pricked at the corners of my eyes. As the moment stretched on, the passion between us intensified, growing more urgent. Our bodies moved in unison, our hands exploring, our lips rarely parting from each other's skin. The outside world ceased to exist. There was only the two of us, entwined in a web of intimacy and desire. I could feel the pressure building within me, the knot of pleasure tightening with each movement. Logan's hands gripped my hips, pulling me closer as he whispered my name, his voice thick with longing. The way he said my name made me tremble, and I felt myself teetering on the edge of release, my body quivering with anticipation. Then, in one breathtaking moment, we reached the height of our passion together, our bodies moving in perfect sync as we were swept away by waves of pleasure. It was as though time had stopped, and for a brief, beautiful instant, there was nothing but pure bliss, pure connection, as we gave ourselves completely to one another. We lay there for what felt like an eternity, our bodies still entwined, our breaths slowly returning to normal. The intensity of the moment had left us both breathless. As I looked into Logan's eyes, I saw the same contentment reflected back at me. No words could capture the depth of what we had just shared, but in that instant, I knew something between us had changed forever, something that could never be undone. In the quiet of the night, with the moonlight casting soft shadows over the room, I realized I had found something I had long believed impossible: love. Not the kind bound by rules or expectations, but a love that transcended time, age, and circumstance. And as Logan held me close, his hands still gently caressing my skin, I knew this was just the beginning of our story, a story that would unfold in ways neither of us could yet imagine.